For example, may tweet na, kumain ako ng ganto-ganyan sa gantong restaurant tapos ngayon na let's say nagsusuka ako, bumili ako or something like that. Pwede niya hanapin, tapos makikita niya may pattern ba, marami bang nagsasabi nun, kailan sinabi yun, tapos pwede siya mag-identify. So very interesting kasi for the longest time, ito yung parang nasabi ko na new perspectives. Never naman natin iisipin na saan tayo kukuha ng foodborne disease data sa Twitter. Parang ibang siya, di ba? Parang biglang ibang paradigm siya bigla of looking into food safety problems.
I think that also highlights, Bertweet also highlights, and the other social media based AI highlights how difficult it can be, because your example ni Mando was in Filipino. So think about that in ASEAN perspective. There's so many languages. Even in the Philippines alone, there's already so
Iti-train mo pa magbasa ng ibang languages. Ganun.
Yes.
Magandang araw mga kapwa siyentista at welcome sa Behind the Science podcast kung saan kakausapin natin ang ating mga scientists para ibahagi hindi lang ang mga resulta ng pag-aaral nila, kundi pati na rin ang mga behind the scenes or behind the science stories nito. Simula sa kung paano nila ito naisipan gawin hanggang sa na-publish na nila ito. So this episode, may dalawa tayong guest at ang pag-uusapan natin ay sounds like unrelated na topics, food safety and AI. So ang una nating guest is a full-time faculty serving as Instructor 5 of the Department of Food Science and Nutrition, College of Home Economics, UP Diliman. He handles courses in general and food microbiology with a particular research focus on food safety. He is also a professional food technologist who ranked first in the first food technology licensure exam held last 2023 and serves part-time as a food industry consultant as part of his extension work. And he is also currently taking his Master of Science in Food Science in UP Diliman. So without further ado, let's all welcome Mr. Dominic Panaligan.
Hello, magandang araw.
At ang second guest natin ay isang BS Computer Engineering student in UP Diliman, and his research interests revolves around applied artificial intelligence and machine learning, robotics, and data science. So without further ado, let's all welcome Mr. Isaac C.
Hello ba?
Kakaiba yung topic natin. Mukhang unrelated na fields of research, pero somehow pwede pala silang makonect. So bago natin pag-usapan yon, alamin muna natin yung origin stories ng ating mga guests. Unahin muna natin kay Sir Dominic or kay Sir Mando. Sir, can you share with us paano nyo na-realize na gusto nyo mag-pursue ng career sa STEM?
Siguro simulan ko kung kailan ko actually na-realize. Well, kahit yung bata pa ako, may inkling na ako, parang gusto ko na science. Pero for the longest time talaga, so sana siguro maraming makaka-relate, hindi ko pa alam yung gagawin ko in life. I think na-solidify talaga siya nung nag-food tech ako, and I was inspired by some researchers and teachers from UP Diliman, particularly sa department namin. So that was Sir Al Gabriel. Teacher ko siya noon sa food micro. He was one of the leading food microbiologists ng Philippines, and he inspired me to do more with my course to actually pursue science. So, ganun siya na-solidify.
NAST academician din siya, di ba? Tama ba? If I remember correctly.
Yes, tama.
Nakita ko din yun dati, yung mga news about food, siya palagi yung nakikita ko at the same time sa Twitter, din siya. Nakikita ko din yun dati.
Sir, sobrang active ni Sir Al in many ways. Unfortunately, siya nag-pass away siya around the pandemic. So, ayun.
Ikaw, Isaac, can you share naman sa amin ano yung origin story mo? Bakit ka nag-computer engineering?
I'm not yet solidified on where I'm going, where I'm taking. I'm doing researches. I mean, this is my third paper published. At the same time, I'm still studying UP Diliman. and it's computer engineering, and it's not a science-based course. So I'm still, my doors are still wide open, whatever the future holds. But yeah, in terms of origin story, I kind of got it got solidified sa LaSalle Senior High. But before that, like I had some teachers in my high school that really inspired me to do research. And also, I guess from a young age, like nung elementary pa, I always thought of research as something that's super difficult, right? And when science stories comes out, yeah, especially before when I was a child, I imagine yung solar panels that follow the sun, and I was like, wow, that's so creative. Na they got the inspiration from sunflowers, and I was like, how can I do something that creative and also ask it back? So when research came in high school, as well as nung solidified senior high school, it felt like calling na I could try and pursue. And with several mentors, nung I was in the South Senior High, I was able to go in to international conferences and also publish papers. It was so fun. I fell in love with it, and it made me want to do more. It made me want to actually have an impact. It feels like a stepping stone, because now that I have this foundation, I feel like I want to continue doing research. So I really fell in love with it. I want to do more, and that's why I also partnered with Mando here, and I'm super grateful that they took me in for their projects. Yeah. For the other question, why computer engineering, is because nung junior high school, I was part of the robotics team, and I fell in love with robotics. So it felt like super natural for like robotics to computer engineering. And that's also how I got my initial topics research. It was like, oh, here's one of my projects in robotics, and one part of it was sort of prototype or model, but I wanted to make that a reality, and from there, the ideas expanded. That's how I got into AI. Yeah.
Yun. Actually, si Isaac yung unang undergrad natin na guest dito sa podcast.
Wow.
Published na. Published author na. Yung ibang papers sa sa IEEE pa na na-publish.
Yeah, the first one was IEEE published. It was the conference paper, senior high. I'm super grateful to my mentor, si Dr. Mela Ipio.
Natutuwa ako dun sa kwento mo ng robotics. Kasi nung high school ako sa Pisay, robotics din yung elective ko. Yung pinaglalaroan namin yung Lego Mindstorms.
Oh, sa amin is Specs IQ. And then from there, I transitioned to Arduino. And ngayon yung little brother mo teaching me.
Naka-Lego Mindstorms din kami noon.
Ay, medyo may pala tayo. Medyo may common interest konti.
And now ngayon, it's like these stuff.
Nice. Actually, nung high school, kasi di ba nag-robotics din ako. Mga Lego Mindstorms yung pinaglalaroan namin. Nung nag-upcut ako, ECE yung kinuha ko na na first choice, ECE tsaka EE. Nakapasa naman ako, pero mas pinili ko mag-geology. Kasi walang kumukuha ng geology sa amin. So, ayun.
Sayang, dapat same institute tayo.
Pero naman, balita ko, student ng kapatid ko si Isaac eh.
Ayun, may ganun ba?
Yes, yung lab prof ko last semester.
Kamusta naman yung kapatid ko as a teacher?
Siyempre, sa podcast kayo na yun, so dapat good vibes. pero magaling siya. Magaling si Sir. Very chill then. Like, I didn't expect Discord yung ginagamit yung way of communication.
Hindi naman stricto. Madami ba siyang binagsak sa inyo?
Parang. Mataas naman ako. Nagulat din ako, like, the first lab work, medyo mababa. Yung binigay, but understandable. It was like sort of transition phase to like what he expects the class to do. So it was very understandable and it was very reasonable.
Freshman ka pa naman, Isaac, so masasanay ka rin sa mabababang mga score.
Yes. Especially in Triple E.
Kay Sir Mando, curious ako sa food tech na board exam. Kasi parang matagal ko na naririnig yung food tech na course. Pero apparently, last year lang may board exam. Ganun
Yes.
ba yung scenario?
Yes, I think na-establish yung Department ng Food Science and Nutrition sa amin. Although not sure kung food tech na course ay available na. 1961 pa actually. Pero yung Philippine Food Tech Act, around 2022 lang. And then of course, naghintay pa ng implementation, IRR. So yes, 2023 lang actually nagka-board exam. And I think yung naging challenge talaga is to define the course. Kasi for the longest time, problem yun in definition. To give you an idea kung gaano pa varied yung interpretations ng food tech, depending on the university, yung food tech ay minsan nasa, for example, sa amin, nasa College of Home Economics siya. I know na merong nasa College of Science, merong nasa College of Agriculture ata, tapos merong nasa College of Education pa. So, iba-iba talaga yung treatment kung ano ba yung coverage ng food tech. And I guess recently lang talaga siya na to some degree na define enough para maging batas. So, na-professionalize.
Parang yung sa UST ata is kung saan yung may kitchen.
Eduk yata. Eduk pa. Tama ba? Eduk yata.
Eduk. Tama. Narinig ko, I have a friend sa nutrition.
So with that, kapag sinabing food tech, ano yung ginagawa ng isang food technologist?
How I like describing it is each of the sciences that would go into food. So lagi namin gusto sinasabing concept, food from farm to fork. So everything after makuha sa farm, so syempre sa farm mismo that's agriculture, pero paglabas dun, post-harvest, all the way to bago just before you consume it, food tech yun. So all aspects, production, preservation, the chemistry of food, physical characteristics of food, so to some degree even business, even marketing, and from my end, of course, yung focus ko, the microbiology of foods, all of that would technically fall. Yung application ng sciences na yun lahat would technically fall under food tech. So, yun din yung challenge. Bakit siya nahirapan in narrow down? Kasi by nature, medyo broad talaga si field.
So yung cut-off pala dapat after harvest, yun yung food tech. Yung pagtanim at harvest agriculture.
Yes, post-harvest yung simula ng food tech ang consideration.
Nice. And ikaw yung second na guest namin na food technology yung expertise.
Sino yung first, sir?
Si Jason Braga.
Hindi ako.
Hindi ko alam kung napanood yung sa previous episode. Pero yung naging topic niya before ay effect ng GABA, yung gamma amino butyric acid sa brain function.
Kita mo dun yung lawak ng food tech. Kasi kunwari, ako personally, ganun topic, medyo na ako. Kayo na yun.
So yung ginagawa mo, mas more on dun sa microbial.
Yes. Food microbiology talaga yung specialization ko. Research interest going towards food safety. And medyo significant naman since one of the findings din namin sa paper, more than 90% actually ng food safety issues is microbial in nature. So dahil sa microbial. So hindi naman lahat, pero a big part ng food safety would be micro.
Pag inaaral mo yung microbial food safety, anong klaseng pagkain? Kasama ba mga chichirya doon or yung mga lang?
Yes.
Mga meron din yung chichirya. May bacteria din yun.
Pero hindi lang natin usually na yung chichirya. Kasi very very stable siya. So ayun nga, isipin mo na lang kapag magandang, parang lagi kong ginagamit sa students ko, mag-isip ka from the perspective ng microbiome, ng bacteria for example. So kung ano yung gusto mong kinakain most of the time, pag malusog, mga ganun, masarap kainin, usually gusto rin ng microbiome yan. So bakit chichirya? Medyo stable, hindi ganun karami yung nutrients niya, maalat, so hindi masyadong gusto ng microbiome. Pero definitely kaya. Kaya means every now and then nagkaka-case ka, di ba, na may parang junk food na may amag or something. Pero as far as safety, safety from a microbial perspective, medyo safe siya. Pero from a nutrition, hindi na ako magsasalita on that aspect. Sa ibang specialist.
Very natural naman.
Alam na naman, medyo nagasgas na yung topic. So, kung hindi siya nutritious, edi hindi rin siya nutritious for the microorganisms, edi stable siya in that aspect.
Since pagkain na yung pinag-uusapan natin, siguro mag-transition na tayo dun sa sa paper nyo, which I find very interesting. Yung title nito ay Harnessing Artificial Intelligence in Microbial Food Safety, Global Progress and Implications in the ASEAN Region. So before we go into detail dun sa study nyo as well as yung behind the scenes, can you explain muna tungkol saan yung paper in just one sentence?
One sentence. We explored how AI can be used as a new, efficient, and cost-effective way to address the persistent food safety issues, especially in the ASEAN region. So kung nasa naman tayo, syempre. Tulad
nga ng nasabi ko kanina, parang napakalayong mga research areas pero somehow na-connect niyo. So, ayun, madami akong tanong dito. Una, paano niyo naisip yung research topic na to at paano nabuo yung collaboration niyo?
So, ito yung backstory on how me and Manto met and also our other co-author. So, when I was in LaSalle Senior High, as I mentioned earlier, well, my Chem lab prof was our co-author, so the third author is si Ria. We became friends, and I told him about my first paper that I was working on. And from there, we were like, oh, maybe we can try and work on our paper ourselves. So that's where my second paper is. It's a product of our works. It's more on predicting bioactives. I'm not gonna go into it. But then Rian introduced me to the faculty, Mando, and there we were. Since we just finished a paper on AI, we want to explore more them on how we can apply data science, AI in food, in not only food safety.
To add on yung sinabi ni Isa, kasi sinasabi mo earlier, medyo malayo. I think it's actually not the case. To support lang yung sinabi ni Isa, right now you can think of AI. Well, definitely AI would be kind of a tool science moving forward. So it's a tool that you can use in many, many different ways, in many different fields. And moving forward, it's turning out to be a very powerful tool.
Pero ikaw, Sir Mando, nag-aaral ka din ng AI or purely si Isaac lang?
Actually, I have.
I will.
I have been. I'm aware naman of the developments. I keep in touch sa news. Pero I wouldn't consider myself an expert. Hindi nga ako computer science. Although, fun fact pala, nag-uusap kayo kanina. Second choice ko actually sa UPCAT, CCS. For some reason. Ayun, so hindi ako computer scientist. So actually, yung paper namin, parang computer science side, food safety side. Tapos brainstorming, pinagpangga namin kung paano.
Also, if you read the paper, we really wanted focus on the food tech and food science side. We wanted the explanations, or we wanted it to be honed into that audience, not really into like how is this infrastructure built, what's the system, what's its individual systems. We kind of glanced over it just so that we can get an overall picture, because again, it's a review article. We wanted to just speak to that audience.
Dito sa part na to, isa-isahin natin muna siguro. Una siguro kay Sir Mando, pwede mo bang ma-share sa amin ano ba ang mga issues sa food safety sa ASEAN and also dito sa Pilipinas?
Issues sa ASEAN, in general, describe muna natin actually yung estado ng ASEAN as a whole. Problem sa ASEAN, medyo malaki yung disparity. So we have several countries. Socio-economically, culturally, lahat yun malaki yung disparity. So you're looking at countries like, we're somewhere in the middle, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, socio-economically. Then you have also countries like Singapore, and di pa siya member, pero for example, Laos and Bangladesh. Laos is not a member, pero Bangladesh, for example. And that gives you a large variation sa culture, social conditions, economic conditions, and lahat, even geography. And dahil sa complexity ng food safety, lahat ng yun actually pwede mag-contribute. So for example, a developing country like us versus a developed country like Singapore, pwedeng ibang-iba yung mikrobyo na nagdudulot. For example, tayong mga nasa middle of the socio-economic ng ASEAN, like say Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, usually we're seeing your usual suspects like salmonella, yung leading. So non-typhoidal salmonella is a leading cause of disease. Some estimates more than 50% daw ng disease ay dahil sa non-typhoidal salmonella. However, doon sa mas developed, let's say Singapore, we're seeing more cases of viral reasons like norovirus. And then, yun pa lang sa socio-economic. You also have to look at, let's say, cultural, geographical. Once we look at the data, we realize may mga certain countries na wala halos case ng pork tapeworm. Bakit wala? Kasi Muslim countries sila, so it makes sense. May mga countries na may specialized, di mas specialized, pero may very specific species of parasites from seafood. And depende sa seafood na commonly kinoconsume sa country na yun, iba-iba siya. So, aside from food safety, definitely, marami pa rin cases ng foodborne disease for all of these countries. Pero aside from that problem of persisting foodborne disease, the problem is iba-iba yung itsura or iba-iba yung profile ng food safety sa bawat ASEAN country. And that makes it hard to address. Kasi right now, as ASEAN, we're trying to come up with, let's say, a food safety system for all ASEAN countries. But it's very difficult since iba-iba yung itsura ng food safety with all of these. So, yun yung profile right now sa ASEAN. Roughly.
Pero may ano ba yun? May concept ba na, for example, ay yung pagkain sa ganitong country mas ano siya? Mas hindi safe or mas madumi compared to this country? Or wala namang ganun?
We don't
very
want,
ano siya na issue?
Siyempre sensitive siya. We won't want to name countries. Pero that's actually another problem that we want to address in terms of food safety. Dati kasi, dating-dati, yung food value chain natin, malamang yung farm to fork mo, let's say, farm sa Batangas, kakainin mo sa fork ng nasa Metro Manila. Hindi na ngayon ganun. Pwedeng farm na nasa China, pupunta sa processing plant ng nasa Amerika, tapos i-distribute yung isang ingredient galing, let's say, Indonesia, tapos makakain ng fork ng nasa Pilipinas. So yung food chain mo, food supply chain mo, mahaba, komplikado, and a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, sabi nga nila. So kung may lapses sa food safety, kahit saan man doon, pwede magka-problema. So, yun yung indirect answer, hindi ko pwede. Siyempre, hindi tayo magsasabi ng mga pagkain dito. Pero we have seen issues dati na kahit isang country lang magka-problema, nagiging global problem siya. I guess yung pinaka, wala, may sa inabot generational, no? Alam mo yung issue sa I think yung pinaka-pumutok na global lately is melamine, di ba? Parang matagal na rin.
Ayun sa gatas yun, di ba?
Sa infant formula. One country, pero the problem was global. Tapos, mas recent.
I think yun, nakwento sa akin.
Nakwento. Yung sige, recent talaga.
Nakwento lang.
Meron tayo ngayong brand na nagka-issue with a food additive. So, wag natin pangalanan na lang. Pero, yun, perfect case yun. Kasi yung food ingredients na ginamit nila from another country altogether, tayo yung country na nag-produce, tapos ibang countries or group of countries naman yung nagka-problema about the product. So it illustrates yung concerns about food. In this case, it's not necessarily safety per se, pero kung paano nahihirapan na ngayon ang mundo, ang iba-ibang bansa, para mag-control ng food in general.
Natanong ko lang din kasi siya, kasi recently lang din tayo si Mekus. Napapanood nyo ba yun? Hindi.
Oo, napapanood ko na
Memes.
yung memes.
Sa memes
Yung
lang.
memes
I
lang.
post
Hindi ko alam yun.
sa Facebook.
Sobrang viral lahat ng mga videos niya kasi minimekos-mekos yung mga pagkain gamit lang ang kamay.
Ayun, buti naman yung ganun sa local level lang nangyayari. Pero in broad strokes na lang, marami rin tayong cases ng foodborne disease dahil sa mga taong nagme-mekos-mekos na. Ang pagkain. Mekos-mekos ng pansit sa birthday, mga ganun. Lagi pa rin natin problema yun.
Pero tungkol dyan, curious din ako kasi parang ang titibay ng mga tiyan ng mga ganong tao. Over time ba nakaka-develop ka rin ng matibay na
Na-adapt yung
kapag madumi yung kinakain mo,
system.
nagiging matibay din yung tiyan mo sa maduming pagkain.
So magkain na tayo ng lupa, ano?
Again, as a food micro instructor and as a food technologist, official answer ko is we err on the side of caution sa food safety lagi. Pero sa food micro, kapag may pathogenic na mikrobyo or yung microbe na nakakadulot ng sakit, maraming factors kung kailan siya magdudulot ng sakit. Siyempre, yung strain ng mikrobyo, anong klaseng mikrobyo yun, gaano karami yung microbial load, and then may tinatawag tayo na pathogen-host interactions. So, yung factor ng host, resistant ba siya sa sakit? Let's say, healthy ba siya na adult or immunocompromised siya? Bata ba siya? Matanda ba siya? Senior ba siya? May sakit ba siya? So, merong interaction na gano'n. So, hindi ko directly sasabihin na yes, may mga taong matitibay lang talaga. Pero definitely, your factors related sa immune system mo would play a part. Kasi, I guess, hindi na to from a scientific perspective, pero lalo na yung mga taga-probinsya or taga-Metro Manila na nag-probinsya, medyo meron talagang anecdotal experience sa parang pag uminom ako dito, parang nagkakasakit ako or something, pero yung iba hindi naman. Bakit gano'n? Parang
nayanggaw na pala bigla yung mga joke lang. Next question kay Isaac. So, in recent years, parang nagbo-boom yung mga terminologies na yung AI, machine learning, neural network, deep learning, ganun. So, can you share with us ano ba yung AI at ano yung ibig sabihin ng mga terminologies na to?
I mean, it became super popular na any company that has AI in their name or like puts AI as one of their things, like their stock prices just increase, right? So it's getting to a point na parang bubble siya. Pero, AI has purpose. I think when the first thing you think about if you hear AI is obviously yung most popular ngayon yung mga GPT, yung mga the chatbots that can reply to us. Most popular ChatGPT. That's not the only AI. That's not the only type of AI we are talking about when we say AI. There's a lot of stuff. So that's why in this talk I've been saying AI or data science, right? Because a lot of the AI tools we use is data science based. So we can start from the ground up if you want. Parang machine learning, that's deep learning, then AI itself. Pero I think what we can show, what we can explore is from ChatGPT. Let's work our way backwards and see where we end up. So ChatGPT ngayon, what it's doing is doing predictions, right? So how it actually works is it's a neural network, and it has layers, and each layer is responsible for something. And you can sort of imagine each previous layer is contributing to the output of the next layer until it produces a prediction at the end. So how ChatGPT works right now is it's honestly just word by word. So whatever the word it is, the sentence it forms right now, it just tries to predict what is the appropriate response or what is the appropriate next word to that sentence. And it's a bit hard to visualize this. It's a bit hard to imagine. So if we work ourselves back another step, let's think about there are AI models that can do image classifications, for example. That's one of my first papers on image classifications. So if you take a picture of a dog, with modern AI tools, we can expect that it can predict that that's a dog or a cat. right? So what's happening there is there are each layer you can think as contributing to an abstraction of the previous. So what's happening is it's getting the most highlighted feature. And when we think about that in the large language models, you can think about it as we can't say exactly what the AI is doing because it's super abstract at this point. But what we can say is like, okay, maybe when it sees a question mark, it already knows that it's a question, so it expects an answer. So going back to our image example, when it sees a human face, example, my picture right now, there will be some parts of the model, or there will be some parts of the neural network that can track my face without me telling it that it should track my face. It learned that a part of it learned that this is a face, and it will show that this is my face. And that's what's interesting then, because AI is kind of stupid in a sense, because it doesn't know what it's doing. It just, from like tons of data and from repeated learning, it gets a prediction. So when we talk about AI, and when the world talks about AI, if the first thing you think about is ChatGPT, yes, it could look intimidating, but at its source, it's super simple. Na you're just taking it's just breaking it down, and yeah, you can think of the features. You can think of different. Let's go back to our image model, right? So you can think of similar images that's fed to the model as being grouped in a cluster. And as you go along whatever axis in this high dimensional space, that you can see similar images from the cluster. And so if a new image is given to that AI, or whatever new input is given to that AI, the AI from previous samples can sort of guess where it might be. So in the case of ChatGPT, a sentence or a particular phrase could be in this high dimensional space, could be in this sort of cluster, and it could sort of redirect itself and show that, okay, from this the next word is this. So if you give it like two random words like German and German and then person, that would, like, you could think of a vector going to German, and another vector addition to person, and then it can get that from that cluster, and that's where it gets its sense of what it needs.
Ayun.
I think I went too technical with that.
Yung question,
I think I went a little bit too technical with that.
Clarify ko lang yung question ay what is AI pa lang, di ba? Ayun, so, sige. Ayun. So, yung technical expert talaga namin si Isaac sa mga bagay-bagay. Tas, in some ways, ako yung ChatGPT ni Isaac. So, kung in layman terms, from the name, you can actually, ang gusto ko lagi kapag nagde-define ng seemingly deep term, you go back to the root word. So, artificial intelligence is intelligence as simulated by computers, usually. Computers. So, simulated ba talaga siya or totoo siyang intelligence? That's another discussion altogether. Pero for our cases lang, it's data in, my data, my intelligence, processing of that data, then my certain output for whatever the use. Medyo nako-complicate na kasi lumalalim na yung klase ng AI natin. Pero actually very contextual yung definition ng artificial intelligence. What do you need the intelligence for? What do you want it to do? Kasi for example, Isaac can program you or hanap ka ng laro online na tic-tac-toe, let's say. Tapos, di ba, computer yung kalaban mo, maglalaro siya ng tic-tac-toe with you. Sobrang simple na code lang yun. Pero for that purpose, it's already artificial intelligence. Ayun, anything that would process your data and then have intelligence to give you your desired output for whatever context, you can consider it as a sort of AI. So, very broad siya. Narrowing down, yung sinabi ni Isaac would be actually one of the more complex applications. I think nasa neural networks ka na. To some degree kanina, di ba? May layers na eh. Nasa neural networks ka na.
I was trying to get to the point that we were in we're a different type of we're in software 2.0. Because before, when we would code, it would be hard coded. We would tell the machine what to do. We would tell it to add, tell it to multiply, whatever. We'll tell it to do this. And for some cases, that's easy because you can tell it explicitly what to do. But for AI in software 2.0, you're telling it what it's supposed to do and just saying good job or no, that's bad. You're giving it incentive or you're giving it punishment for, well, that's a type.
That's a type.
Yeah, but yeah.
Parang
sorry.
Parang before in the more general terms kung bakit mas sumisikat si AI now, before we had to tell programs, we had to tell computers exactly what to do. Now we can just give them our goal, give them a set of rules, depende sa'yo kung gaano ka-complex or gaano ka-konti yung rules na yun, and then let them figure out things. We've gotten to that level. And in doing so, nabibigyan niya na tayo ng ibang perspective on things. It can generate, may concept na tayo na big data, pwede nila analyze lahat yun. So, we're teaching them to think like a human in a way, but then they have their computer or their machine capabilities. And those capabilities can give you very, very different conclusions.
It's super interesting kasi neural network came from like a super old tech, like 19-something pa. It came from the perceptron. And that simple tech, once computers got stronger, got more powerful, then we realized na, oh, this can actually be enhanced. And now from image classification, we go to large language model. And the only thing we change is just how much computing power we have.
Gusto ko yung sinabi mo kanina na yung ginagamit mo interchangeably yung AI at saka data science. Kasi madalas ko nang ikita yung meme na what is AI, tapos yung Scooby-Doo na meme, yung si Fred.
That's yung mascot. Yeah.
what is AI, tapos data science yung lumalabas.
Yeah, honestly, it's just like clustering and it's predicting. People think it's some sort of magic, but it's just in the data.
Pero kapag sinabing AI, hindi naman requirement na parang may humanoid robot ka na nag-iisip on its own. Kasi minsan pag dati nung naririnig ko yung term na AI, naisip ko yung movie ni Will Smith na yung iRobot. Tapos hanggang loss of robotics na a robot must not hurt human. Ganun.
Yeah. Pero yeah, I mean, AI could be as simple as an if-else statement that someone learned in high school.
Ayan din, madalas ko din nakikita yung ganyang meme na what is AI, tapos nested lang siya.
Just
nested na if statement.
Yun, actually.
Yeah.
Totoo pala yun. Nested na if
statement. Yeah, that can be an AI. That could be a AI in a game, right? An AI in game,
okay.
A simple game could just be like, if this condition is met, then you punch the guy, right? Or that could be AI.
Kahit yung mga di ba? Yung earliest chatbots actually are just ganun lang eh. Parang ayun, pero
yung Clippy, yung Clippy
yung mga ganun.
Paano ngayon na-connect yung AI sa food safety?
Well, yung nasabi ko kanina, for the longest time, problem na natin food safety. So, pinag-iisipan natin yung food safety. Initignan natin anong pwedeng gawin. Nagde-develop tayo ng systems to track, monitor, control foodborne diseases. Pero, yung hindi naman siya problem, pero limitation natin so far is yung mga approach natin mainly ay mga approach na naiisip natin. So, medyo weird yung baka anong problema sa naiisip natin na approach? Well, it turns out, nakaka-develop, yun na nga, with AI, naka-develop na tayo ng mga systems, algorithms, machines, which can think faster. I wouldn't say necessarily better, pero in some ways faster and can look at more data. And by using these machines to analyze the data that we have, nagkakaroon tayo ng bagong perspectives, bagong approaches, sometimes bagong sagot. And for food safety, yun, basically, actually yung sinabi ko just now, you can apply that sentence to any field na a-applyan mo ng AI. Pero from food safety, paano? Tracking and monitoring. It has allowed us to analyze a lot of data. I think yung isa sa pinaka naging distinct, for example, social media, di ba? Or Google search data or Google search history, etc. Yung mga ganun. So, ayun. For specific applications, ano bang favorite mo sa mga na-RRL natin? Isa?
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to something earlier that kasi we can think of at any field, whatever, if there's something monotonous to do, and it's just like labeling data, for example, if you already have a past data set, you can just train a model now to learn that, and then it can now do it automatically for you. So that's one of the advantages there, and that's why it's very easy to apply AI to these subjects. But yeah, moving forward, applications we found in our review article, I think my favorite was yung BERT tweet model, because that's one of the first papers na we read na inspired us to make the paper then. And what that basically focused on was it would scan Twitter for bad reviews or for certain, you can think of it as AI is reading certain keywords and then classifying it if an outbreak has occurred or can occur. So it's like trying to find the source. So there's other papers na using geotag to find specific restaurants, or iba naman validation. So a lot of the Chinese papers try to validate their system if it was a correctly identified outbreak.
Mm-hmm. So for example, kung may food poisoning na nangyari sa isang barangay, ititrace kung saang restaurant nanggaling yung pagkain na yon.
Oh, pag makulit yung tao, like nag-tweet siya or whatever social media, nag-Reddit siya, if enabled yung Google Geotag, makikita, it will try to predict or it will try to analyze saan siya kaya.
Kunwari, si BERT tweet ay yung na-site ni Isaac, so inanalyze kasi namin, pero some of the more interesting we found, yun nga si BERT tweet. Talagang basically meron kang algorithm na mahilig mag-Twitter. Check niya lahat ng Twitter feed, real-time and historical. Inanalyze niya. Tapos babasahin niya. Titignan niya kung may indication ba ng foodborne disease. So for example, may tweet na, kumain ako ng ganto-ganyan sa gantong restaurant. Tapos ngayon, let's say, nagsusuka ako. Bigumay ako or something like that. Pwede niya hanapin, tapos makikita niya may pattern ba. Marami bang nagsasabi nun, kailan sinabi yun. Tapos pwede siya mag-identify. So very interesting kasi for the longest time, ito yung parang nasabi ko na new perspectives. Never naman natin iisipin na saan tayo kukuha ng foodborne disease data sa Twitter. Parang ibang siya, di ba? Parang biglang ibang paradigm siya bigla of looking into food safety problems.
I think that also highlights, BERT tweet also highlights, and the other social media based AI highlights how difficult it can be, because your example ni Mando was in Filipino. So think about that in ASEAN perspective. There's so many languages. Even in the Philippines alone, there's already so
Iti-try mo pa magbasa ng ibang languages. Ganun.
Yes.
So that's one of the problems that we also saw, because ASEAN is multicultural. So it's hard. And especially the type of typing, like even in the Philippines, if you just type in Filipino English, then that's already a different type, right? And what if the user uses some syntax that is not non-conventional?
Perfect yung example na sinabi ko kanina. May relatively madali. Pero for example, what if, OMG you guys, I ate this, and like, nung kumain ako, I was like, OMG. Nagkasakit ako. Parang ganun. Nagiging child. Kailangan natural language. Pero in the...
And ngayon may mga brain rot language naman.
Dati pa naman.
Yung Gen Alpha is coming into age and...
Huwag tayo mag-blame ng generations ng mga Gen yung panahon namin. Ay, may challenges na ganun, pero on the plus side again, ito pa lang, very specific example, itong social media application. May makikita ka ring advantages. Kasi for example, let's say, may kinain ka, tapos nagda-diarrhea ka. How likely na pupunta ka sa doktor? That's always a problem with foodborne disease. Karamihan self-resolving, meaning kailangan mo lang magpahinga, palipasin mo lang. So karamihan hindi rin pumupunta sa doktor, hindi nare-record. So compare mo yung chance na pupunta ka sa doktor or magso-social media ka, magtitweet ka, guys, nagda-diarrhea. Or mag-google ka, diarrhea causes. Something like that, data agad yun for AI use na. Otherwise, di natin makukuha. Kasi konti naman yung nagdo-doctor actually for foodborne diseases. Unless sobrang serious. So that's one advantage.
Pero sa more on food production na aspect, paano ma-apply yung AI?
Sa food production, more on, yung kanina kasi, very interesting sa amin kasi yung data nun is in a way, very disorganized yung data nun eh. Na kapag pre-process mo pala, pero very available. Kapag pre-process mo, may makukuha ka conclusions. Sa food production, in the side of safety pa rin, medyo mas madali. Kasi most of the time, yung mga companies natin, syempre may data na silang kinokollect. Even now, if you talk to a food industry practitioner, food tech sa isang kumpanya, malamang tinitignan ng QA yan, quality assurance or quality control. Every day, every week, every month, mag-check sila ng mga checklist na may lapse ba dito, may lapse ba doon. And iisa-isahin nila, a-analyze nila, pag-uusapan nila, usually as a company. With AI, medyo dumadali yung steps na yon. Lahat ng data na yon, yung big data na yon, maraming data points iba-iba, pwede na i-analyze. So, mas dumadali yung mga processes on, let's say, checking for patterns. May patterns pa sa product namin, sa processing namin. And even making new implications ulit from data. For example, I think meron din tayong paper na nakita na even yung weather patterns, kinoconnect niya sa microbial load ng seafood ba or agricultural product. Nakalimutan, medyo marami tayong binasa paper. Pero merong something about weather patterns, diba? Tama ba? Naalala mo yun?
Was that weather?
Parang weather.
Was that under sa yung meteorological na prediction ng
meteorologic data, tapos ano yung product? Basta it can give you fresh perspectives. It
predicts salmonella outbreak.
Parang something like that. So something that you wouldn't normally think of. Again, new perspectives. Pwede mo ipasok. Kasi medyo baka ang sama ng tingin sa'yo ng food safety team nyo. Uy, tignan nyo nga kung yung salmonella cases or yung quality ng product natin related sa tagulan or tag-init. Di ba parang sa amin? Boss, sayang oras namin. Medyo marami kaming ginagawa. Pero yung AI, mabilis na magagawa yun. Wala kang oras masyado na sinasayang. Pwedeng makakuha ng ganong conclusions.
Kasi at that point, you're just feeding random variables. You you have all this data, you have all these variables at one certain time. If you feed it, you can sort of do this thing where you can do variable analysis and see which ones contribute. So then at that point, okay, you know na weather matters for salmonella or in whatever case it is. So parang sa sinabi ni Mando earlier, pag production na, you don't really need these big complex AI models. Since maybe at that point, the team can just implement a regression model, a clustering model, and simple show up the, again, baka Excel lang yun, and tapos na.
Medyo nilayuan ko kasi this is more on yung discussion. This is not entirely safety. Pero for example, isang nakikita ko talagang very food processing centric na AI application. You can actually put in many variables. Ano yung, kunwari may makina ako na gumagawa ng certain pagkain. Sobrang general. Tapos itong makina na to, may iba-ibang parameters na kailangan i-set. May setting siya. Pwedeng maglagay ka ng iba-ibang setting, iba-ibang raw material. Kunin mo lahat ng data na yun. kunwari, gumagawa ka ng bagong formulation, pag nakakuha ka ng enough data, possible na hindi mo na actually kailangan mag-formulation ulit. Pwede kang gumawa ng parang digital model, parang digital model ng makina mo. Tapos, from the data na nakulik mo dati, pwede mo nang estimate or predict. Pag ganito yung formulation ko, pag pinaghalo-halo ko yung ganito, anong klaseng pagkain kaya yung lalabas? That's one example. So, mawawala yung cost. Again, this is not really safety, pero kung very production focus yung tinitignan mo, that's one very interesting application ng AI na, yes, ginagawa na ngayon actually.
From a data science point, what you usually call those, so many variables of input, yung features. And you can determine which features are the most impactful. And yun nga, kung ano yung correct settings dapat sa ito machine. I got to talk to, I forgot yung Dr. something. Yung basically, nung conference ko sa Malaysia, I got to talk to someone and we were talking about her research. And an idea popped up na we can, instead of guess and check kung which one has the most effectiveness on piercing, we can analyze from previous variables and previous properties of that food on what strength to use this machine so that it can produce this type of parang efficiency na siya. And yun din nakita namin sa mga other papers sa review article. There were a lot of papers that used it for scientific base. That's what we coined it. Basically, when you're analyzing data, for example, yung colorimetric, tama ba?
Yeah.
Yung sa colorimetric data, they used AI to speed up, well, not really speed up the process, but use it as a tool to analyze what was actually happening, because colorimetric data is super complex, and if you can narrow it down to just some numbers, then you can quickly compare and contrast.
Na-enlighten na ako sa application ng AI sa food safety. So talagang hindi na talaga maiiwasan yung AI ngayon. I think applicable din siya very applicable din siya sa field ni Isaac na yung AI tutulungan ka din sa paggawa ng ibang AI. Tutulungan ka magsalat ng program.
That's one of the things that we talked about before, na parang we laid out all these challenges and we were like, eventually in the future, we think ChatGPT would be just strong enough to just become the model, the model that can produce other models, which is super weird to think about.
Parang ang progression na yung na open na natin yung discussion kanina. Parang dati, sinasabi natin yung exact instructions sa computer. Tapos umabot sa point na tinetrain na lang natin yung computers. In the future, ang nakikita natin, actually tinetrain na lang natin yung computers mag-train ng ibang computers.
Parang yung computer nanganganak na siya.
Yes, parang ganun actually. Ginagawa na siya now.
Yes.
Pero yun yung medyo nakakatakot na part.
It's also surprising how we got this point. I guess there's so many applications of AI food safety. Not when I was doing my first paper again before, I didn't realize that I was doing applications to food safety. Actually, I don't know why we didn't include my paper. I could have had the citation. Sayang. The joke.
Yung ano ba to?
The first paper before.
Yung egg.
Yung egg, yeah. So my paper before was taking images. So we took thousands of images of eggs and we tried to classify it if it's dirty, cracked, or clean, and then the different sizes. So that was my first project on image classification. And I didn't know that I was already sort of doing food safety and AI, because I'm sort of automatically determining if something's cracked, dirty, because if something's cracked and dirty, then they need to get some cases.
Alam mo bang one of my first papers din ay classification ng egg dirt level sa shell eggs by image analysis.
Okay.
Pero local lang pinablish. Hindi kami nag-AI, simple algorithm. Pero image analysis. Yun pala. May common ground pala.
Dito pala sa research nyo, anong klaseng funding yung kailangan nyo para magawa siya?
Review article kasi kami, so ang walang funds, dugot pawis talaga.
So naggamit din ba kayo ng AI para basahin yung mga papers?
Di ano,
No.
di ba, meron sa aming malakas mag-chat GPT, pero, ayun, lang, writing aid. Actually, may mga AI systems na for RRL, di ba? May mga apps.
Ay,
Yes,
meron.
ginagamit ni Rian yun. Pero I did it. I still handread. I still manually read.
Ayun. So, ironically, medyo pang matanda pa yung approach namin sa pagsusulat ng paper.
Ganon din ako, hindi rin ako mahilig maggamit ng AI sa pag-assist ng pagsusulat.
Trinay ko before mag-chat GPT, ang na-realize ko kapag medyo established ka na kung paano magsulat or like may established writing method ka na, medyo mahirap na ipasok. Or like, medyo redundant na si ChatGPT.
Especially if ChatGPT does like hallucinations.
Kapag na siya.
It believes 1 equals 0. Yung mga ganun memes.
Pero nag-writing aid lang kami and wala, parang wala pumasok na ChatGPT input. Binibeto ko ba si Rian pag bumabot? Hindi rin umabot ba sa final? Even yung wala, no?
Alam ko hindi. Alam ko we wrote.
Parang ino-overhaul natin.
Kasi it started with my we call it
word vomit.
It started with my word vomit. Yeah, it started with my word vomit. I just wrote down what was on top of my head. And
gusto ko yung discussion natin ng nung pagsusulat and binibeto niyo yung kasama yung pagsulat. Kasi, well, para sa mga audience or sa mga sa mga students pa lang, ganun talaga yung nangyayari sa research. Magsusulat ka, tapos papacheck mo sa mga co-authors mo. Tatanggalin nila yung ayaw nila. Kailangan nyo mag-agree kung ano yung isulat. Kailangan nyo rin gumawa ng compromise kung ano yung tatanggalin at ano yung isusulat lang doon. Nakakatawa yung ganitong discussion.
Medyo hindi na di-discuss masyado yung writing.
Saying this paper had the word limit, it's a bit difficult then because if we exceed it, then that's additional cost then. So we tried to keep it as concise as possible. That's why if you look at the paper, there's a huge table, so we can just cross-reference everything to that table. Say, this paper also used this.
Parang general process namin, especially for the AI part. For the food safety part, medyo ako, tapos papakonfirm ko na lang.
Medyo natural.
Papakonfirm ko na lang sa kanila kung okay ba. Pero yung sa AI part, yung word vomit ni Isaac, tapos check na rin. Tapos i-unite ko sa overall paper. Tapos, ayun. Tapos nag-meeting lang kami actually pag marami ng output or pag starting. Medyo minimal yung meeting natin, no, actually.
Yeah, meetings were super sparse. There were just problems at the start on how we wanted to write this, because the way it's hard to think about how we should organize it if we haven't finished reading everything, right? So initially, like, organization was like, oh, do we do like types of input, then types of output, then what the data is? And so we tried to play around on how we want to sort the full paper, because that's also important, how we categorize everything. But since we wanted it to be a food science focused paper, we decided with yung input type yung most important versus output or AI method. Kasi if we prioritize AI method and then just everything is just spilled in there na okay, sa SVM, ito lahat ng inputs at outputs ng ginamit. It's super confusing.
Kasi parang as a tool science, we wanted to focus on the output instead of the tool. Kunwari.
Yung mga research groups dyan na nagsusulat na ng mga thesis nila. Ganito mag-usap yung mga researchers kung paano sinusulat yung paper. Hindi yung ambag lang nila papel, ambag lang nila yung snacks.
No,
ganito talaga yung mga nangyayari na discussions.
Alam kong ang modus ng mga, syempre as an instructor, alam kong laging ang tendency ng students, diba, ako sa meto, ako sa intro, mag-away kayo, pagsama-samahin niya.
No, everyone has to work on everything. So you need to know what your goal is. Kasi some papers don't even know, or some people working groups don't even know what the goal of their paper is. And they're just randomly reading these methods, and it doesn't make sense why they put this data point in if it doesn't really relate to it. It's yung queries namin is like organized chaos. we had folders, pero inside the folders there was no organization.
Yeah, I think very typical naman yun sa atin. Pero dito sa sa paper nyo, kailan nyo na-realize na pwede nyo na siyang isubmit for publication?
Ayun, actually kasi nakakita si Rian lagi. Nakakita ng call for proposal si Rian. Tapos,
Yeah.
I think that's applications of AI in food safety. So parang nauna actually yung call for papers. Then we check, pasok ba dito yung expertise namin? Thankfully, pasok. Kasi AI and food safety. So from the food safety side, ako, more on the AI side, si Isaac, tapos si Rian yung a little bit of both. And siya yung mas ka-work actually ni Isaac before. And then from there, we actually look into ano ba yung research gaps right now. And we realize actually, wala pang nagtitingin or wala pang tumitingin kung ano yung pwedeng gamit ng AI sa ASEAN food safety. So we went with that. Kasi meron ng mga nag-global na food safety, may nag-global use of AI in food safety, pero wala pa sa ASEAN. Isa pang, let's say, gap in research, konti pa din lang yung use of AI in food safety applications sa ASEAN. So ang nakuha naming framework, what if we check the global state of the art, ano yung latest, yung best of the best sa AI use of in food safety sa buong mundo, and then, ano yung problema sa ASEAN? Paano natin gagamitin yun para sa ASEAN? So, ganun yung naging flow.
Yeah.
So, parang hinanap actually namin yung gaps in knowledge. And then, saka kami nagsulat.
So like Birth Tweet was Western, and we were like, oh, pwede ito sa ASEAN, but yung main challenge na to is language. Parang ganun din.
So, I guess medyo hindi applicable sa amin yung question kasi as a review article, you really start out going, okay, gawa tayo journal. Pero kung paano kami napunta, gawa tayong journal article. Pero kung paano kami napunta sa topic, paano kami naka-discover na meron kaming topic that's worth publishing. Ayun, you really look at the research gap. And then you give it a unique angle.
Yeah.
Lalo na for a review article. In some ways, mas strict yung criteria na dapat meron kang bagong sinasabi.
We really focus on like what's novel, what's special about this. It's super hard not. Kasi when we're about to start writing, we wanted to make sure what we're writing is something.
And so moving forward with this research, ano yung future plans nyo?
Future plans related to this paper, medyo nagka-clout siya, as the Gen Z would say. Medyo nagka-clout yung paper. Nag-apply ako for the Singapore International Food Forum. So sa August 1, pe-present ako sa National University of Singapore for that. Tapos na-invite din ako ng Philippine Association of Food Technology, Incorporated PAF Inc. For their annual PAFCon. So pe-present din ako local on this paper exactly. So parang pe-present ko lang to an audience. And then, we've also been invited na maging editors ng isang book chapter. Yun, so medyo bago yun. So yung tatlong yun ay medyo nag-come up lang, nag-approach amin. Pero from our end, moving forward with this. Kasi Isaac nag-aaral pa. So, antabay lang siya. Pero from my end, meron ako actually ongoing na proposal sa isang DOST unit na okay, so inanalyze namin sa paper na to, how do we use AI? Now that we found out paano, we will use some of those. We will try, or we are proposing to use some of the most promising applications para sa Philippines. So parang pilot testing dito.
Nice.
So sana ma-approve sila sa
sana
DOST.
Nag-lobby no?
DOST baka naman. Pero ang galing na from this paper, madaming nag-open up na opportunities sa inyo na i-present siya sa ibang audience.
Nagulat kami, or at least ako actually, kasi honestly from the start parang suntok sa buwan lang yung paper na to. Okay, sige.
I remember we just met sa UCC, then just talking about what to do with this paper, and biglang.
Ayun. So I think kailangan na nating i-wrap up yung episode. So before we let you go, ano yung ma-advise ninyo sa mga aspiring researchers?
Just keep an open mind and look around you. So ang lagi kong naririnig, parang mahirap mag-research, mahirap mag-isip na research problem, ay, well, hindi naman pala mag-disagree. Pero just look around you. hindi kailangan i-complicate eh. Kasi as children, we tend to look up to scientists na parang, okay. Actually, nung bata ako yung scientist, yung mga naka-lab coat sa commercial na nagba-microscope na mahal. It's not really like, well, it can be like that, pero it's not really like that. Meron ka bang typical na problema? May everyday problem kang na-encounter. Then that's already some sort of a research problem. So look around you, your house, your family, your community. Anong problema doon? And then, ano expertise mo? Check paano mo pagbabagain. So in essence, it's just solving problems. Saka sa Pilipinas pa dito, nahihirapan ka ba talagang maghanap ng problema? Hindi naman, di ba? So lahat yun actually is an avenue for research.
Gusto ko yung nabanggit mo yung Pilipinas kasi sa sobrang konti ng scientist sa Pilipinas, kahit anong research topic gawin mo, malaki yung chance na first of its kind siya.
Oh, actually.
Sa Pilipinas. I think I would like to add on to that. I think observation is like the scientific method, right? Observation is the first step. You have to observe. And just by observation, like I have so many research topics I want to do. I have it listed down on my phone. Okay, here's some of the topics I want to do. Here's some people who I might want to contact with. And it's just about being passionate on what you do and being observant and knowing and you have to understand that it might be challenging, but challenge is what makes you better. I still remember yung mentor ko dati, I said na, this image classification thing sounds super complex. I'm just a senior high student, maybe I can't do it. And he said, no, this looks very promising. You should look into it kasi why do something easy in something tricky if you can improve upon yourself? Yeah, just being passionate about doing that that already can just take you along.
One last question. Do you have anything to promote?
Ako shout out sa students. Hello. Kung may pupuntang PAFCON, I will be talking there. Yun pa lang naman ang magiging appearance ko. Kung may Singaporean audience tayo, nasa National University of Singapore po ako sa August 1 for the conference also. So yun lang.
The podcast is English and Filipino. Who is listening in Singapore?
Mga student advices, naghanap ka?
Student advices, ayun, so apply to food tech. Para maging student advising ko kayo. Kakasimula ko pa lang so meron ako. And wala pa ako sa level na parang PhD prof na naghahanap at may power mag-call for advices. Kung ano ang bumagsak sa aking harapan at magtanong. So, Isaac, may plug ka ba?
What platform do I have? I might regret this, but if you want to collaborate me, just search my name, please. Well, but I feel like I'm still busy with Sida, Mando, and Rian with their projects, so maybe they. But it's super interesting community. I love scientific community. It's super welcoming. Everyone that I've talked to is very encouraging. And hopefully, you guys are also encouraged to do something. So, if the first step is talking to an undergraduate student, I can help ish. But yeah, super socially awkward. Sorry.
Yeah, okay lang yan. Ayun, so hopefully na-enlighten yung audience natin ngayon tungkol sa applications ng AI sa food safety. And apparently yung mga inaakala natin na mga unrelated topics, related din pala sila. Magagawa natin ng paraan para malink sila. Sa lahat ng nanonood or nakikinig, maraming salamat. And also kay Sir Mando and kay Isaac, maraming salamat for giving us your time. And for anyone interested na i-share din ang kanilang study, scan nyo lang yung QR code and fill out nyo yung Google form. So, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.